All right, guys, welcome back to podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about the importance of taking responsibility and accountability for your actions within the scope of powerlifting. Maybe within the scope of everything else too. We'll see. Because we always talk about that it is important, right? You should take accountability. You should take responsibility for when things go good or bad. And everyone talks about this, right? Your parents talk about this. But why? Why is it so important and tangible that you do this? How does this benefit you as an athlete, as a person? Because I think that a big reason why people maybe don't take as much accountability, aside from, the more obvious things of like, shame and blah, 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 is they just don't realize that it can hold you back so much when you just don't take responsibility for the good or the bad, right? So, Mally, this was ultimately your topic idea, so wax poetic for a bit.
I don't know. I think okay. I'll talk about why this came up. Because it actually started off at the barbershop a couple of days ago. If you don't know, I got a haircut. But I was talking to the boys at the barbershop. Shout out Johnny's. Some of the best conversations come over there. But we were all talking about, again, I'm going to sound like the uncle fucking screaming at kids. But we were talking about how in this generation, or even our generation, not just like the new generation, but like young adults, let's say, like everyone in their 20s to mid 35s or something like that, we're kind of in this weird lifespan where everybody kind of blames all their actions on what their parents did. Like they're always going to be like, oh, my parents brought me up this way, so this is why my life is like this. Like we were talking about that kind of an aspect, and I got me thinking after I was driving to the gym right after, and I started thinking about it in like more of a powerlifting sense. And I'm like, you can kind of see it with even people in training and in the powerlifting space where everything is a victim mindset. Why training isn't going good, why they're not making performance, why they're not being like good at something. They're always putting someone else down because they're not able to do it themselves. So, and I'm not talking about, I don't think our circle, like people who we surround ourselves with, I don't think do it, but there's a lot of people out there who do it. And I think that's why, because people have this mentality in life nowadays, I think that's why we're starting to see this, like, people come and go in powerlifting so much, because they aren't able to take accountability and continue improving in something like powerlifting, which takes a pretty fucking long time to get good at, if you're going to get good at it. Right? So I think because people don't actually have the ability to take accountability in anything, they actually don't have the ability to be a good powerlifter.
Adam, you have any thoughts on this? You look perturbed.
No, I'll riff for a second. Let you riff. Let me keep on pondering for a second.
All right. So Mally had his parallels with the barbershop. Chief Keef ain't this, Chief Keef ain't that. When Mally posed this question to me, obviously, the immediate parallels that I drew were with League of Legends, as anything ever is. Right? It's so commonplace to make a mistake in that game, and immediately you are blaming your teammates, you are blaming game design. That champion is unbalanced. These numbers are untuned. My teammate should have followed with me. This game is bullshit. FF. FF means surrender. And this has always been something that has given me a lot of strife as a player, because if you never recognize where you went wrong, right? If you can't take accountability for why a play went bad, how do you know what to improve on? how do you know what to then move forward with and go, okay, a mistake clearly occurred, right? A misplay clearly happened. We lost that game. What could I have done to avoid that, right? Ultimately, we can't, within the realm of League of Legends, focus on, or rather, affect our teammates' actions, game balance, those sort of things. They're outside of our locus of control. All that we can focus on is our own actions. So that's why it is so crucial to take responsibility and to ultimately take blame, because only when you do that can you then actually isolate the things that you can work on. If you constantly push the reasons for things going bad onto others, you lose control of the situation entirely. And that extends to anything else, up to and including powerlifting, right? If a session goes badly and your immediate blame is, well, my coach should have programmed this, I wish I had this rack, blah, 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 blah. The moon was out of alignment. Frankly, it is harder to find exact examples for powerlifting due to it being an individual sport. And yet we hear so often, right, there will be excuses for a session going poorly, as opposed to, this is on me, right? If anything, because it's an individual sport, we can so much clearer find reasons for it being your fault. And that isn't to just demean and say, look, you're having a shitty session, it's on you entirely, go fuck yourself. But rather, look, it is entirely your fault, which means it's entirely within your control. Every aspect of this is personally manipulatable, right? And that gives you power. That gives you agency over your situation. And that only happens when you take responsibility for your misdoings. So often we see people, succeed and grow victorious, and they go, this is on me, but when they fail, it was something else. As opposed to, look, you are responsible for your success, or for your, victories and your failures. And it's extremely crucial to flick that switch, because then you have control over your outcomes.
Yeah. I think I have a way to bring Adam into this. Adam, remember there's a competition you did, Western Nats, I think it was. It was kind of when you guys both tied again, didn't beat Cafway. You guys were supposed to out-total Cafway. It was that competition.
Super total.
Yeah, the super total 765.
765.
But I think that competition was interesting because you obviously didn't do what you wanted to. You weren't feeling strong of the day. Me and Nick were both kind of seeing that you weren't where you usually are when you compete. And then on the platform, you were kind of having like so they were calling you for like soft knees, hips, glutes on bench. There was like weird shit going on the entire day, which is not going your way. But I remember it was something interesting out of that, because there's two kinds of people in that kind of a situation. The first kind of person would probably be like, these fucking refs, they fucking suck. They called me on everything. Everything was fine, and not change anything. But you, I remember like a week or two after, you'd already changed your bench form. You were unracking with your hips down, right? You had already changed a bunch of shit on squat. I think you even went and bought a barbell to fix that might have been after Worlds. But again, that's another good example about grip, right? But where I'm getting at is you're a very good example of taking accountability and almost like putting all the blame on yourself, right? It could be to a fault, but maybe I can bring you into this conversation through that. Like, talk about your mentality about those kind of things.
Yeah, I actually, I just posted a YouTube video. And in that YouTube video, I talked about how a lifter is responsible for everything in the sport, right? It's your choice how much effort you're going to put into your sessions. It's your choice who you hire as a coach, right? It's your choice how you're going to communicate with that coach and problem solve situations. So, yeah, I mean, the only way to move forward in the sport is taking complete accountability. At the end of the day, the choice is in your hands for everything. It's an individual sport. I think some of this comes from, we have to look at how people enter into the powerlifting space. I think a lot of people are failed athletes from team sports, right? I think a large majority of powerlifters competed in a team sport when they were younger, didn't find a ton of success, and then they pivoted into something new. And I think probably a large portion of those people weren't successful in those team sports because, it was never their fault when they were playing team sports, right? There was always someone else to blame. There was a reason they didn't get to where they wanted to go, right? So then they enter powerlifting, and it only exacerbates the issue because there's no one left to blame here, right? Like there's no one to fall back on. If things are going poorly, it is all in your hands. So, you need to take complete ownership of your progress, whether things are going bad, and make calculated decisions based off of that, right? No one's forcing you to lift. So if you want to become a better lifter, you need to own it. And I think I do a good job with that. I always take responsibility for what goes well and what goes poorly in the sport. And I accept that, but I think a lot of people struggle with it.
Yeah, and I think Mally brought up a good point too, wherein sometimes you do get bad calls, right? Like, look, we're talking about accountability and how, like, you should take, frankly, blame for everything. But we can probably objectively say that, if you have a long enough career, you will eventually be subject to some bullshit, right? But I would argue that, it just doesn't matter. When that does occur, whatever. It's what it is. And I think people do tend to get hyper fixated on that ref made a terrible call, and it kind of mentally, tilts them to a degree for the rest of the meet, right? As opposed to just like, look, I got a bad call, move on. Like, take blame as much as you can, because honestly, for myself, I find comfort in that, right? Like, sure, my head, that's not a real rule. Like, my head wasn't off the bench, but I'll just try to set up better. Whatever. What am I going to do about it? Right? Yeah. Don't tilt over it and then just move on through the competition. Like, my opener deadlift. The carpet shouldn't be that loose. But, you just adapt. You have to pivot and take accountability and spread the floor better. Pull the slack out of it and move on with it. Don't go throughout the rest of that competition sort of mentally turned off because you had some bullshit happen to you. Because it does happen, right? Let's not beat around the bush here and just say that, like, 100% of everything is your fault. But it is that mentality of assuming it is anyways, because that way you have 100% control. Even if it is, sometimes a harder pill to swallow, that you can't shift that blame onto others, right? What can I do better, right? Is the sort of motif statement there. Doesn't matter what happened to me. Doesn't matter what call I got. What can I do in this situation versus this is bullshit. I hate everybody. I'm done with this competition. I'm done with this prep. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. And I think, like, it happens to a lot of people, like, probably close to competitions when, I don't know, you get sick, you get hurt. Shit happens during during prep. It's supposed to happen, right? Like, very rarely do people have perfect preps where everything is just going perfectly and you're feeling good all the time. I think if you check out, like Nick said, like, you just check out and go, oh, whatever, it is what it is. You already lost. You're already not going to do what you're able to do. But the more times you kind of train that accountability, when it comes down to, like, the last bit of training for competitions, or even executing on, like, a third attempt, or trying to execute a third deadlift for a win or something like that, the more times your brain is already trained to go, all right, I just got to fucking do this. Right. And you can be at the point where, like, you just missed you missed your opener, you missed your second attempt, and now you still need to load the third to win. Like, that can happen. Or you have to push the squat even if everything felt like shit. But if you have kind of trained your brain to feel sorry for yourself already all the time, when it comes down to it, you're never going to have that mentality. It's not going to switch. It's not something that that just comes with you.
Do you think it has anything to do with this fear of not living up to your potential? Right? Like, let's say you're not taking accountability or putting a ton of effort into certain aspects that will make you better as a lifter. It's a lot easier to fail and be okay with it, because then you can just be one of those guys where, oh, but if I had my nutrition right, I would have done so much better. Or if I got all my sessions in, I would have performed better. So maybe there's a little bit of fear tied into that as well, where it makes losing easier to accept because, well, I didn't do everything perfect, right? It's a lot scarier when you're doing everything perfect, you're calling your shots, you're talking a little bit of shit. Pressure's on you, you got to live up to it, right? You don't have any excuses. And I think a lot of people are scared to do that as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think
huge bitch move.
Oh yeah, huge bitch move. Yeah. I listened to this interesting podcast where it was talking about how successful people, it was talking about men mostly, but it's saying successful men really they'll really dive into self-sabotaging. They'll find any way to self-sabotage themselves because they're so afraid of being that successful person that they're capable of being. And we might have female listeners. I don't know if women really listen to us, but if there are people who are listening to us, but if there are men out there listening to this and you do have some sort of potential, but your mom...
Why wouldn't this apply to women?
No, I'm just saying that it would apply to women too, but I'm just saying, I don't know if women listen to us. We're kind of weird. But I'm just saying that, like, if you, man or woman or whatever, if you have an ability or potential to be successful at something, there is going to be a part of you that wants to self-sabotage. It's very important you don't let that happen. And I'm a strong believer that comes from taking accountability. And Adam knows this firsthand. I wasn't a person who took accountability about fucking anything. Training, life. I didn't take accountability about shit. And there was a point in time a couple of years ago when Adam told me, just like, unless you do that, you ain't going to find your potential. He told me that in the car one day, and I was just like, shit.
I made this guy mad a lot of times. So Mal has been mad at me many times when I was very honest.
Right? Like that shit, that stuck with me. And I think about that probably weekly and during training quite a bit, because I think it was an important lesson that you got to stop fucking victimizing yourself. You have to. Everybody's got to stop doing that. The other person isn't richer than you because they got hand-me-downs. They still had to work at something. Unless they got fucking trust fund, maybe. But, like, not a lot of people got that shit.
Well, I was going to say, actually, do you guys believe in luck? The concept of luck? Yes, no? Surely Adam does. You gamble so much on shitcoins.
I think people get luckier the harder they work. I think people who work really hard have good things coming to them. And maybe a little bit of luck also comes their way with hard work. I think if you're not putting in any effort, it's very unlikely that you're going to get lucky. So, like, I think of this from, like, the business standpoint, especially, right? If you're putting in a lot of effort, you're making a lot of connections with people, you're networking, you might get lucky and meet the right person who's going to, ascend your business or take you to the next level. But that's not going to happen if you're not putting in effort in the first place, right? And that can be applied to powerlifting as well. If you're working really, really hard, you're more likely to get lucky. Things are more likely to go your way. But it snowballs. It has to start with an initial push.
Yeah, like you can't win the lottery if you don't play. Right, like I totally agree. The more opportunities you lay out, the more chances you have for those to come up or come down. Right, luck is but I do think that luck is a factor. That's what I want to get out here, is that we can't deny, in my opinion, I totally believe in luck. I think it's as simple as, look, even where you're born, that's a luck-based thing, right? If I'm born into some rich estate in Luxembourg versus if I'm born, no offense, Mally, in like as a fucking Dalit in India. That's going to affect things.
We were farmers, but all right.
No, you know what a Dalit is.
Yeah, I do.
Anyways, so there is an aspect of luck, and I think that recognizing that doesn't push away our own agency over it. I think it's just a factor that affects everybody to the point that through the lens of competition, I could get very lucky, or rather, there are so many almost non-quantifiable variables that go in my favor that I have a quote-unquote lucky prep. And at the same time, my competitors could be very unlucky, right? This is out of my hands. It's out of my control, so I don't worry about it so much. I do what I can, like Adam said, to stack the cards in my favor, and maybe to a degree, I hope that my competitors' cards are not stacked in their favor. They get a dog shit hand, and I go to the table. So I think that a lot of people will just go unlucky prep, right? And, you know, sometimes that is just how it is. You get unlucky. But I don't think that that should dissuade you from playing or trying your best, right? Don't fold right away. Go to the table anyways. You don't know what cards your opponents have been given, right? So I just wanted to bring that up because I think a lot of people will just look at this as like, oh, but I do everything very, very well in my, you know, I'm doing everything right. I'm so perfect. I'm just super unlucky. And it's like, look, I'll even say you might be. But what if you're still the luckiest person at the meet, right? What if you have the competition and everyone else has been even more unlucky? What if I go to St. John's and Caffrey's flight gets canceled and I win? By default. That's the game, baby.
No, then Jeremy's going to be 83 and smoke your ass.
What if Jeremy Klaus, his limo crashes? He doesn't get hurt, but he can't get to the venue. That's the game.
Yeah. Let's bring this into like more of a, if people can learn something from it. Let's talk about training, like every day. I think what's your name? Adam. Adam put up a YouTube video. Adam put up a YouTube video recently about not overthinking in training. And I think it's a really good watch. People should go watch it. But I have clients who will, you know, have a bad session, have a bad block, and then immediately start wanting to change shit. Even like week one, when arguably shit feels the worst. They want to change shit right away. Is there a way you guys as a coach would kind of tell someone to take accountability in that situation? Like, how do you teach someone to, you know, ride the course, not overthink, but control other things maybe? Like, what can you teach in that situation?
Well, I mean, this is going to come off a little bit harsh, but I don't think a coach is there to force you to train or is there to force you to do anything, right? If someone's being a little baby and always whining about things and they can't take accountability and they're not putting in active effort to get better, I'm not working with you. I've dropped people before because of this. Like, I just refuse. It's not my clientele. I'm not here to force you to do something, right? If things go wrong, we'll troubleshoot it. But the effort must be there on your end. You must continue to believe that you're capable of doing things. You guys have dealt with these people too. It's like some people just don't have it. Like some people genuinely just do not have it. Like, because it makes failing so much easier to blame other people. So yeah, it's tricky. I think they would probably need to remap their whole life, because if they're doing it in powerlifting, they're definitely doing it in other aspects of their life, and they're probably been piggybacking off other people for their life. But yeah, what was your question?
No, I think you made a good point. This is why this topic is so interesting to me, because of what you said. I think powerlifting is a display of so many things that you can do right to be such a high level lifter, right? So when you say if you're not taking accountability in training, you're probably not taking accountability in other aspects of your life. A lot of people, if you guys are looking at like the elite powerlifters of the world, like just take Sheffield for an example. If you take every individual lifter and look at their story and look at their life outside of powerlifting, they're quite successful people. And they're quite, they have their head on their shoulders. So I think it's really important for for listeners to understand that you probably won't be good at this thing if you're not good at handling your shit.
Yeah,
I would
I
agree
always say
I would
how
agree
you
with
do something is how you do everything,
Yeah.
right? Like my friends that I do play League with, they fucking hate me because they're like, you are overbearingly competitive, and frankly, you suck, right? Like, just for context, my rank in League, I'm like silver right now. That's equivalent to like 200 dots. I'm dog shit. I'm really, really bad. But I take accountability for everything. And that's just to say that like the way that you do one thing is how you do everything, right? If you want to be successful at powerlifting and you need to take accountability, that needs to be something throughout the rest of your life. But wrapping back around to Mally's initial question of sort of, if a client comes to me, you know, and they're like, this block went really poorly, we need to change around a bunch of things programming wise, I think the first question you need to ask is, okay, well, let's look at the context of this block. Let's look at how things were inside and outside of training, because look, they might be right. The program might have sucked. I might have written out some steaming hot dog shit. It happens, right? I take accountability for that. But we need to also look, and this is just something that I think some people either don't do due to pride, and some people don't do due to just sheer ignorance. They don't understand how important the rest of your life outside of training looks like. So when I am having conversations with athletes, very often I don't explicitly want feedback to just be hip felt good on squat or deadlift, you know, all the time, right? It's how did your day go outside of this session? What did your day before and after look like? Are we preparing ourselves outside of the gym to then, when we are in the gym, to actually execute and perform well? Are we setting up our life and our externals and our variables and things that we can take responsibility and accountability for? Are we setting them up to actually validate these performances that we want to achieve? Very often it's yes, right? And then we look at that and we prune through it and we make sure that even if they assume that they're doing that, they're actually doing that. Are they getting enough sleep? Are they eating well? Are there any variables we can have? Is there contextual reasons why this block may have went this way or that way? And at the end of the day, if they've covered all their bases and we have made a programming error, then we change things. But that sort of initial idea of things are bad, not my fault, coach's fault, change things, that's where there can become a lot of noise. And we can't solve the issue because we don't know what the root of that issue is, right? And often it is holistic. Often it is everything. They're not sleeping enough. We do need to make programming changes in accordance with that, blah, 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 blah. But the coach's job is to look at the programming and make sure that the athlete is doing everything in their power, and it is the athlete's job to do everything in their power. And that's often where they tend to fall short. And as a coach, that is your job to recognize that, but do it in a way that is, you know, not prideful, right? I need to be very cognizant of not just going, my programming's perfect, you're not sleeping enough, die, right? I need to go, look, we need to either get you to sleep more or meet each other halfway is usually how it is. You can't handle this much workload. I'd like you to handle this much workload. I think with proper recovery, you could handle this much workload. Let's meet each other halfway. You recover more, I make you work less, and eventually we can pull up together to get to that point where we need to get to. But that only works when both athlete and coach are able to take responsibility and accountability for what they can control.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. But how would you handle Mal's initial situation there of like people complaining about things that are just not worth complaining. Example, I feel shitty on a week one. Let's panic, scratch the block, and we're just getting started. How are you handling that? You tell them to shut up?
Well, like I said, is it a point of ignorance for them? Do they just assume that like they're doing everything perfectly? Like, do they even know their shortcomings? Is it a point of pride of just like, I am perfect, so you've done something wrong, right? It's an individual basis. How do we tackle that individual? And I do think for a lot of people, they have an immediate emotional reaction to things. Right? That's normal, right? I'm not telling anybody ever to be utterly stoic and rational about things. I think when you care deeply about something like powerlifting and you have a stressful, bad start to a block, it could be normal to panic, right? But it is the responsibility and onus of both individuals in this scenario to take account of that and go, you're panicking, you're crashing out. And we need to pull back a little bit and look at this rationally. What can we, start to look at? Because I do think that, this shying away of responsibility is ultimately an emotional reaction. I think that everybody loves, what's that genre called? It's like competency porn, where it's like that protagonist is just always dialed in, like the Thomas Shelbys and Reddingtons and, those kind of shows where it's like, I know what I'm doing at any given time because I have perfect clarity. We want to be that. I think everybody wants to be that person, but it's really hard because it requires a sort of dismissal and shedding of ego that is genuinely difficult to achieve, right? I don't want to admit that I've done something wrong. Someone else has done something wrong. I can't do anything wrong. I'm perfect, right? That's actually, we say this comically as something that's like, people need to stop doing this, but it's very fucking difficult, right? And but that even so, like, we like things that are hard because they're worth it. So I would say to those that have trouble doing this, that it is worth doing for the sake of its difficulty. Stop being a prideful individual. Stop being ego-driven in your decision-making and start taking accountability for your wrongdoings, because only then can you grow as an athlete, as a business person, as an individual. Only then is there becoming, right? When you can just go, I fucked up.
Yeah.
Let's fix this.
Mm.
I think Nick said some interesting stuff. I read this. I'm doing some research for coaches right now. So I read something that says, coaches, what are we ultimately trying to do? And this article talks about how we're trying to help people make a change. And I thought that was pretty interesting, because what Nick just said is, let's say a client comes to you and says, they're having issues. The week one's going really bad. Let's say they're chronic overshooters. They're chronic, like, just bad sleepers. And they come to you with this situation, and then you as a coach go, okay, let me change everything. Let's reset again. And then you reset. They get to week 2 this time. Same habits. Oh, coach, I feel like shit again. Everything is bad. Oh, no, let's pivot. And you keep doing this. Are you actually helping them make any change? As a coach, are you actually teaching this individual anything? In these situations, what Nick said is so important, because it might sound like if a coach says to you, like, all right, well, you need to fix this and this and this, and it might look like they got too much ego to actually fix anything on their side. But actually what they're trying to do is just let you fucking make the mistakes, and hopefully, for fuck's sake, you'll wake up and realize that you're the problem. Right? And I think it's very important that coaches actually hone into this and not just go, yeah, let me help you out. But coaches got to realize you aren't their fucking friend. You're their coach.
Yeah. People who check the boxes are very easy to coach, and people who don't are very difficult to coach and move forward. Right? Like, if I can trust in my athlete that they are taking accountability for everything on their end, and something does go wrong, it's very easy for me to make an educated programming change. Very, very easy. But if someone's complaining about everything constantly all the time, there's so much noise. It's like, it's all guesswork at that point, right? Like, I have a couple clients who I trust them a lot. They do check the boxes. They're very diligent. And when something does go wrong, the solution's quite easy. These people are easy to coach. But it can get very complicated when they're just yapping about everything. Everything's always a problem, or even when their good sessions are going well, they're not communicating that, and they're nitpicking the bad parts of their session. So even if things are going good, I don't know that they're going good. So I guess one piece of advice is be careful with how you communicate and how you word things, right? Like, if things aren't going poorly, like, focus on the key aspects that are not going well, and don't catastrophize everything, right? Or if things are going well, be able to recognize that things are going well. Maybe not everything's perfect, but like, okay, the trend is going well, and make sure that you're communicating that effectively. Because yeah, some people just dump a bunch of negativity there, and then trying to figure out programming changes becomes very difficult. And I think a lot of people are messy communicators, which can make the job challenging. Like, one example is, I'm working with Evan Seymour, the 93 kilo lifter. He has a full-time job, very busy, but he does things right, and he just works really, really hard. He communicates carefully as well. So when something does go wrong with him, it's very easy to diagnose and fix, right? Whereas if I have someone spewing that, like, oh, my pec's only feeling 90% good, and bench felt horrible, but I got all the work done, it gets too complicated. It's like, where do we go from here? And the only option is, well, we just continue on, because if I make changes, it's all just complete guesswork right now. So yeah, be very careful with how you're communicating with your coach, because it can make things really complicated when it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, you have control over everything. I think that is the ultimate statement of this episode, is that even down to how you communicate with your coach is something that you have control over, right? And you should take that responsibility, with, some drive behind it, with some intention, right? Because ultimately, if you don't even do that, if you even just sort of communicate with your coach with flimsy, lackadaisical language that is not precise and clinical, you cannot assume that your feedback in return, in terms of both how your coach speaks back to you, as well as what you get in terms of programming and training, to also be precise and clinical. That's up to you as an individual. And sure, it's up to us as well to be able to read between the lines and blah, blah, blah. But that's not the point of this episode. The point of the episode is isolate everything within your control, which is a lot of things, more than you're probably comfortable with admitting, and try your best to control it. Because only then can you get better. Right? Is that what we're trying to say? I don't know. Is that it?
Yeah. I agree.
I agree with that.
But yeah, I mean, some people just don't got it. I'll stand on that. Like,
Yeah,
dude, some people just do not have it. They're just not cut out for it.
I'll be more hopeful. I think everyone has the capability to have it, and that's about taking responsibility.
Well, that's the thing. I think Nick and Adam is right. Both are right, because I think people have the ability, but people refuse to actually try. I think you can train it. And this is coming from the reason why I'm so bullish about this, because I know what I used to be as a person compared to who I am today. And it's night and fucking day. Right? And I know I did the work to actually, take the accountability and blame myself for some shit. And that's helped me so much. So I don't know, go to therapy. It's you gotta take, grab life by the balls, man. if you do that shit, you're going to be so much further ahead, because I think everybody's got the ability, but people are so, I don't know what it is about the world we live in today that we all have to blame somebody for something. But if we just stopped fucking doing that, I think you could be such a better person and such a better powerlifter.
All right, let's make this more interesting then. Let's make this a little bit more interesting. Bray, you're gonna have to bleep this out. I'm gonna say someone's name. All right, I'll use neutral pronouns here too.
Wait, is Bray listening? Because I don't want to have to update him after this.
No, I'll send a message to his chat.
All right.
Let's take someone like, for example.
Yeah.
Are you saving this guy? Is there any saving here?
No.
Like this-
Everyone
this
is
is one of my
capable
examples.
of salvation.
But what would it take to get that
But this is-
person?
okay,
A lot. It would take
what
a
would
lot.
it take though? What would
Take
it
a lot.
take for that person to move forward?
So a person like we're describing is so everything has been handed to them in life, right? For example, everything has been given to them. Everything has been easy. Sure, they have some hardships that happened to them back in their childhood, right? Shit happened to them. But now, when shit gets really, really hard, not even, like, I'm talking like you got to go to school. You got to kind of get a job. You're talking like you just got to do big boy shit that every big boy and big girl's got to do now. But for some reason now that's the biggest, like it's just causing mayhem in your powerlifting career, right? You have to start taking responsibility that is not a fucking problem. I have a client like them, and then I have another set of clients who go to school for like medical. They have, they're doing their masters, they're running jobs, and they go to school, they go to the gym with their books, and they're studying while training, or they're studying early in the semester because they know nationals is coming up. They know that it's going to be a hard time because midterms are there, right? Nationals is in February. It's peak time for people in school. So they're already prepared for that situation to be tough. They're already ready for it, right? So I have an 18-year-old kid, Tyson. I'll say his name. He might be 19 now. We started when he was like 17 or 18. When he first started with me, exams would come up. He's in engineering. Exams would come up and he'd be like, yeah, I need some time. Maybe let's go shorter sessions and stuff like that. So yeah, we worked with it. It's been about a year and a half together. Exams came up again in December. Set up a call with him. I'm like, hey man, exams are here, which I do with all my students. I'm like, do you need any changes? He's like, nah, I already studied. I'm ready. Let's run the block. Let's push it. And the guy fucking killed his blocks, killed his school. He got an internship because he learned that that's how you need to adapt. And I just don't think, I think that person A who we were talking about needs to get to that point, but because their life has been so fucking easy and handed down to them, they can't get there.
Yeah, but that's my point though. It's like, what? It's such an extreme situation, but
fucking therapy and deal with this shit.
Yeah, so that's what I was initially even saying with like, there's luck, right? And they had a very lucky upbringing, but the monkey's paw curls,
Yeah.
and they are now incapable of buckling up, right, so to speak. But that's just the cards you're dealt. And I do think that anyone is capable of change. Everyone is capable of ultimately, this is maybe what I like to believe. I hate to be black-pilled, as black-pilled as I sometimes become. I want to be filled with hope, and I want to believe that people are capable of shedding that ego, recognizing their mistakes, and moving forward. But like Mally's saying, a lot of that does come down to environment, your upbringing, the people you surround yourself with. And that isn't to say, look, you're never going to have an ego change unless you have these major shifts. Sometimes that's what's needed. But sometimes it is just a recognition of that, right? We talk so often about this concept of yes men, of having people in your life that will coddle you. As Nietzsche said, make friends of your enemies and enemies of your friends, right? the people that coddle you, maybe they want the best for you, but are they capable of that? Can they get the best out of you? Their intentions are pure, sure, but that coddling doesn't help you, right? And sometimes it's up to you. Again, what can you control to recognize that as coddling and go, okay, my friends love me, my family loves me, but this isn't how I grow, is listening to them, to coddle myself in this environment, arrested development, blah, blah, blah. You need to grow beyond that, but that's ultimately up to you. But I do think that it is doable. Ultimately, I feel like I have to believe that. I have to believe that people are capable of being what they want to be, of changing. And for some people, due to maybe an easier upbringing, that is harder to achieve, but still possible. Now, is that up to us as coaches to bring out of them? Yes and no. I do think that we need to be very careful of coddling, of being yes men, of trying to enact that change. But ultimately, that is not a sort of, transmutation that I am capable of delivering to them. They must enter their own chrysalis and become butterfly, right? That's not my process.
Yeah. What I have seen though in this in these type of situations, because I have met people of this easy upbringing, something hits them in life, powerlifting now sucks. It's happened more often than not. And usually they either quit with me or quit powerlifting. If they quit with me and then go to another coach, and the other coach is maybe a bit nicer, a bit more accommodating, they don't really push them to their limits, all those kind of things, you can kind of see them just drop in powerlifting and in life. And it's almost like they needed that, because when everything goes down, they're like, oh, wait, maybe that person, maybe Malhar, Adam, and Nick, when they were being assholes, maybe they were onto something. Maybe they just wanted me to be good. And then they won't come back to you, but maybe they'll grow out of it. But I think until a person actually hits that bottom in their life, with powerlifting or life, they will never understand the weight of taking that accountability and then rising out of it. Some people never hit that bottom. Some people will just quit, keep fucking coddling, and just ride the high horse until they're 60, and then they're cheat on their wife, divorce, shit goes south. Now they're like, fuck, I didn't take accountability my whole fucking life, and now I don't know what to do. And it hits them so late. And I don't know, I just feel bad for those people, because I'm like, fuck, you need to hit that shit early. You got to deal with your shit early to actually grow out of it. But some people just don't. And this person who we're talking about, I think, will probably hit it when they're 60. The exact way I just said it.
Yeah. I mean, all I know is I want to work with people who know what they want, put in the effort to achieve that goal. It's very clear to me, I want to work with them. I'm not here to change someone's whole life and reprogram how they handle every little situation and every little stressor and stop them from panicking all the time. Maybe some coaches do. I don't. I want to make champions. I want to work with people who have champion mindsets. Sure, we can develop that. A lot of people, there's steps to growth, of course, but that's rock bottom. That honestly, I'm not dealing with that. I'm not here to teach someone how to just be a grown up. You know what I mean? That's not a job. Maybe Nick wants it. Maybe Nick wants it. I want to work with
filled with hope.
No, I see what Nick is saying, because there is some sort of self, as a coach, there's some sort of gratitude and helping someone through that. But is it our job? I don't think so. I think it's the individual's job to recognize and be at the point of improvement.
It is the individual's job. And as a coach, I hate dealing with this shit, because it's a lot more work for the same amount of pay. I don't make them pay me more for this shit. I hate it as a coach. I'm speaking from this as a fellow human, as wanting more from my fellow man. do not cope with crabs in a bucket. You can be better than this. We all can. I'm trying to speak into your soul and say you can be more than what you are if you don't listen to all the other charlatans that are trying to drag you back into the abyss. As a coach, I don't really want to deal with it that much. I'll do it because I do have that humanity in me, but it's not my job. It's ultimately not my job, right? It is on the individual, and that loops back around to the initial positive question of this podcast. Responsibility is important. You have to take control of your life. You need to take accountability for it. It'll make you a better lifter. It'll make you a better person.
Yeah.
Is that right? Are we wrapping things up there? Do you guys want?
Yeah, I guess the last thing is if you're a shooter, you stand on business, get shit done, reach out to me for coaching. If you need a little bit more coddling and learning how to be an
If
adult,
you're a lost
go over to
soul,
Nick. If you're a lost soul, go over to Nick. Don't waste my time. I want to work with people who put in the effort so our time's not wasted together so we can make the most of it.
Yeah.
and then if you fall in between, I guess go with Mally.
Dude, I got some.
Actually,
I'm very lucky. I got a lot of.
I got an
athletes
interesting
who
question for you.
I look up to. What?
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
You've been coaching some of your shooters now for a bit of time.
Yeah.
Do you notice that obviously there's some of your shooters who are like fucking 10 years old, but other shooters who are kind of older?
Dude, that's what I mean.
No, but with my question, listen to my question. Do you notice anything as a coach, as you've got to know these people who are actually really getting good at this sport? Do you notice that they kind of went through something in the past and they've brought themselves to a point of, I just need to fucking improve. I know what I need to do. I know I need to hold my accountability and get better. Do you notice that they've had some sort of a rise from that?
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed people make progress in accountability and responsibility, but there's a baseline start that's required for someone to become a champion, and then they build on that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I truly do believe that this is something found young for most champions. Like if we look at Eva Siemens, she's like 16, 17 years old. A kid gets the work done, communicates, send me videos. If something doesn't go well, it's never in panic. She's like, hey, this is just a bad day. Let's hop on a call. We can discuss it, whether it's technical or programming related. No panic. Move on to the next day. So she's only going to get better as she gets older. But if that's the starting baseline, imagine where she's going to be in her 20s. Right? But if we have someone in their 20s or early 20s, like we were talking about, and they have the maturity of an 8-year-old, it's like, even if they make progress, they're never going to be a champion or a high level lifter. I don't believe it's possible. So yes, I've seen a lot of like maturity and growth through my lifters, but you know, all these guys have this baseline of accountability that I really respect. Like even with some of my older lifters, right? Like, hey, maybe it needs some work, but that baseline is still there. It still makes sense. Like the pipeline works out. Yeah, I don't know. I just have this, I get this feeling when I start working with someone or not, maybe not even I'm working with them, just talking to someone, right? Whether they're perfect or not yet, I can see potential in what they can become just based off that initial baseline, right? How they handle stress, how they handle their emotions. But yeah, that's just me. You guys know me. I'm kind of a hard ass. But yeah, I don't know. I can recognize a killer, and I'm very lucky that I'm working with people that I respect too, right? Like a lot of the time we think about the lifter, you know, looking up and respecting the coach a lot, but like I learn a lot from my athletes as well, of like how they handle situations. So I'm very fortunate in that way. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I think what you said was very interesting, that there has to be some sort of a baseline of where you need to be with accountability to even start being a champion. And some people have to get there, or some people are just built like that.
Yeah, and I think one difference, one separation is like, I fully agree with what you guys are saying. I think people always have potential to be better, 100%. I think people are always capable of more. But I'm speaking from the side of like someone becoming a high-level power lifter.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference here. Like, of course, I believe everyone can get better. Everyone can grow up, mature, become better communicators, of course. But it takes a baseline requirement of how you handle situations to become great at something.
Yeah.
Do you think that that baseline requirement is something that someone could grow and nurture and get to, or do you think it's purely innate? You're born with it or you're not? Are we deterministic with it?
They gotta get hit with something real tough,
But
tough.
do you think that anybody can get to that point, or do you think it's just innate?
I think some people.
Some people are born with it. But can anyone get there?
But I think what I know what Adam is getting at. I think what he said there is actually really powerful, that you got to get hit with something. And I've said this as a joke to some people, but I really truly believe it. I think some people who have been through something so like their life is too easy and everything is now hard to them, until something really fucked up or hard or shitty happens to them, they don't really realize they need to take the accountability. So I think what Adam said there is like quite powerful if you kind of understand what he was getting at.
I think the big thing I want to get at is that I would hate for the entire message of this podcast to be disregarded ultimately by just going, but some people just don't have it. Right? I discard that notion. I think for some people it comes extremely difficult, and perhaps there needs to be some catalyst for that change, as traumatic or as awful as it could ever be. But I do think that everyone is ultimately capable of changing and making that ability, or gaining that ability rather, to be what Adam was saying and talking about, as opposed to just some people have it, some people don't.
Give me an example. Give me an example of someone not in esports, please. Tell me about a legend who didn't show clear signs of it.
Adam, we can't.
You know what I mean?
But
I'm a competitive person. I'm a competitive person.
The whole point of this is that you have control over everything.
Yeah, you do, but it's your responsibility to take that.
Yeah, I actually got an example. I got a pretty good example, and I don't know if you guys will agree, but Perk. Perk is a pretty good example, because Perk, if you guys have kind of heard about, he's posted about it a few times in his Instagram and YouTube. You guys know he went to Midland University, where there was like a powerlifting team. He did equipped as a kid, had hernia issues, and then he had to stop powerlifting, and then came back and became the most dominant powerlifter in the IPF. We know all that shit, right? He's actually posted some interesting shit, where he said that when he was pre-hernia, when he was powerlifting, he was already kind of like a talent. He knew he was good. He was better than his peers, right? But his girlfriend at the time, who's now his wife, used to tell him, like, why aren't you finishing your sessions? Why aren't you eating? Why aren't you training? And apparently, he's admitted to this, that he just wouldn't do all that. He just wouldn't do the stuff that was required to be that good. But when he hit that crumbling bottom of a hernia and had to rise back, apparently those voices all became more evident, and he became who he is now, because he took all that and said, I need to actually fucking do this shit, because it's been taken away from me.
And just as a reminder, he was losing before the hernia.
Yeah.
He lost Outwood.
Yeah. But he had the potential. He was good. He was pretty good. But he wasn't doing the work for it. So an example would actually be maybe that fucking downfall taught him that shit, this can fucking go any second. So I better if I want to do this, I better do my shit.
So you heard it here first. Get a hernia.
Yeah. I mean, Nick, you're right. Like everyone can take responsibility and get better. 100%. It's just a lot harder for some people.
Yeah,
It's just a lot harder.
I'll agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll side with Nick here. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer here.
I need to believe that for everyone it's possible, but I'm not going to say that it's not a lot harder for some people. Because some people, and I think for some people, they never will do it.
Big heartbreak or something, buddy.
They never will do it. It's possible. There's still potential, but they will die with that potential. And that breaks my heart. But it happens. Anyways, don't be one of those people. Be instead a subscriber to the CSF podcast. New episodes coming out whenever we have ideas. Vlogs coming out every week. Also subscribe to Adam Jansen.
I might have an idea again.
What do you mean you have an idea? We're not filming another one. I need to go train.
No, I'm saying I might have one soon because the buzz cut, I gotta keep getting it. So
because there's no hair, the thoughts can filter into your head.
No, every time I go see my boy Keaton, he throws some shit at me. So then I ponder.
Yeah, are you gonna get like buzz cuts leading all the way into Nats? Like you have to keep it fresh now.
Yeah, and Worlds. I'm gonna just keep it going.
Dude, that fucking sucks. It's gonna take forever.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot.
I was a hater of that episode. Jeez Louise.
Buzzed too fast. I mean, we haven't ended it yet. We need to. All right, end the recording.